Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tier 1 and welcome to Round 3. It is a Japanese sprint weekend, so we're going to have one lap for the drivers to qualify, 9 laps for the sprint race and 27 laps for the full race. We have ourselves almost a full grid. Unfortunately, only 15 drivers on the grid today, but it is still going to be just as exciting and just as thrilling, and like every week, just as chaotic. Hopefully this time, though, these drivers don't make me die on stream. I do apologise again. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago I was ill. I am still slightly under the weather, and I do have a bit of a cough. So do bear with me if at any point I am dead silent. I have muted my mic whilst I continue to die slowly. Hopefully that doesn't happen too often. I do have some water to help me recover. Welcome, Jakob. Where is Fat Cat? Fat Cat is in the lobby. He's just not under his regular name. I think following Tier 2 after his unfortunate retirement, he's decided to rename himself to Not Skill Issue, whilst we do have a skill issue in the lobby. So we got both pairs, both sides of the coin in the lobby, one being Fat Cat and the other being Mix, who I have to say, Mix and Hunter, if you guys do watch back on the VOD, thank you very much for commentating Tier 2. You both did a wonderful job. No pressure, Mix. I am looking forward to see how you do in the race now. As I mentioned, one-shot qualifying. So the drivers are going to have just one opportunity, one perfect lap. Someone's hit ready right as we get onto the grid. So someone's not going to have a setup with them. And that is going to be a mistake that they are going to really, really sorely regret for this one shot. And we're going to get underway in 10 seconds. Here we go. It is a beautiful circuit, Suzuka. It is an 18-corner circuit. It's got one DRS zone, one DRS detection zone, as well. There isn't much really to commentate with the one-shot quali. I'll do my best to try and keep up with everyone, but we've got a few names and faces. You can see Rico and Cos have got a qualifying ban to serve, which is why they have retired at the start of the session. Kosilvi will actually be the back. Kosilvi will be right at the back, fighting alongside with his friend and his foe, Rico. Both of them very competitive and very equally paced, I have to say. It's just a matter of consistency and strategy. Who's going to come out on top? And to no surprise, Soybean, the Verstappen of Phoenix, I have to say, is absolutely flying ahead of the pack. And from what I can see, he is about a half a tenth up on Sector 1, so he's got some pace in hand. But whilst we wait for the one-shot quali to finish, if you haven't already, of course, I'm not going to spoil much from the race, but hopefully you guys have seen the race from this morning. I appreciate for those of us in the UK, it was 6 AM, but it has been, 14 hours since the race this morning. So if I do mention anything from there, I mean, I've warned you, but yeah, a few drivers now have retired. Of course, track limits can be an absolute pain if you do invalidate your lap. If we have a look, let's pull up the track map quickly before the end of the lap. No one has invalidated it, so the people who have just retired have just not really kind of kept it together. I was wondering why the Red Bull was shiny. I did notice that, Jakob. As Ryan now finally joins, there we go. McLaren driver has managed to make it. Unfortunately, GG Land, as far as we're aware, is still asleep, so we've not heard anything from him. But there you go, that is your qualifying order. It is a 2/10 gap between Soybean and Julian. It is a 1 second gap between Mr. Goat and Soybean. Very, very separate, the grid. I have to say, I'm actually quite surprised for the grid to be this open. For Tier 1, I appreciate this one-shot quali. Kudos with a 3 second lap time. I appreciate this one-shot quali, but you know, these drivers are some of the best that we've ever seen at Phoenix. I was kind of expecting more, but there is still that 9-lap sprint race, so a lot can happen. But, yeah, 18 corners, 1 DRS straight, an absolute pain of a first sector. I think the first sector is the one sector that everyone really does not like. Just purely because of the constant S's left, then right, then left, then right, then left, then right, then long left. and then a sharp right into the second sector. We'll have to see. You can see them in the corner of the screen. The drivers are just sitting there on the grid waiting to get going. And there it is. Fat Cat owns up. He accidentally readied up a little too quick. And he was the one who had to go ahead and go through qualifying without a setup. But that is fine. There is no issue with that. He suffered the consequences and didn't get to race with a setup. Now we are going to send out the message and get the Tier 1 drivers readying up for the session. 9 laps. Tier 2... From what I recall, we had a very clean and a very interesting race for the sprint in those 9 laps. So I'm hoping and I'm expecting to see some very good racing now for Tier 1. I have my hopes up. These are, as I mentioned, some of the best drivers we've ever seen. No assist. The only assist we permit these drivers to run with is with racing line on, and that is set to corners only. But everything else has been disabled. So it is a matter of the drivers versus each other, purely based on their skill and their setups, not about the assists that they run to help carry them forwards. So, Soybean on pole. Every driver, I believe, are going to be starting either on the softs. Some of them might be daring and sit on the medium, save the softs for the race. No, everyone is on the softs. 16 drivers on the grid on the softs. And it looks like Soybean gets away very, very well. Very clean getaway for the Red Bull driver. And into the first corner, he's going to be comfortably into the lead. Yuli in a P2, all the way down. In fact, the entire grid, basically down to the back 14, is very, very clear and very, very calm. We do have a full course caution, I think. Is it a safety car, though? It's not updated on my screen, but there's definitely something going on. Is it a safety car? Can't be a safety car this early. No, I think it's just a virtual safety car. It's just not decided to update on my screen for some reason. I've just pulled my microphone out my table. That's not good. There it is, virtual safety car. So already we have an incident right at the start, and if we have a look at the back of the grid, unfortunately, Rico without a front wing. So a contact at the start between him, and I believe it was with Quenzup, so that is with the AlphaTauri driver. Did result in the Mercedes man in losing his front wing. With a virtual safety car, you can lose half of your pit stop time, but it's a virtual safety car. It's not going to last long enough for Rico to win anything. Jakob, the team principal for Mercedes, absolutely having a blast already. First lap of the sprint race. He sees his reserve driver, unfortunately, losing his front wing. And I'm sure that is not a delight to see. And that is going to be the virtual safety car ending in just a moment. We're going to sit on board with Soybean, see how he goes into the chicane. And he does manage to catch some of the drivers behind him off guard. 4 tenths, 5 tenths is the gap now. You can see Julian going a little bit deep on the brakes there. And loses now down to 6 tenths almost on exit. Of course, with a really good exit, you can close it in. The fastest lap will go to Soybean, but the first lap is going to go tumbling down the order very, very quickly. So we're going to see Julian try and go for a move down the inside. Unfortunately, not quite close enough to take the lead of the race. Soybean, the Verstappen of Tier 1, is still going to go strong. He is trying to defend his championship. He won last season just so close. He was fighting with his good friend and a good foe, Rico, unfortunately, at the back of the grid now with no front wing. He is now trying to defend that championship title. Fastest first sector. He is flying. He is not leaving an inch of space left on track. That's not the right words. I'm trying to basically say he's using every bit of track available to him to climb through the ranks, as we have a bit of a battle here between Koz and Wobby, and I think Koz might have gone off the track a little bit. That will explain why he was ghosted there. He loses it off of traction, out of the hairpin. And now we're going to go to the spoon curve. Down the inside goes Koz Sylvie on Wobby McQueen. The McLaren team principal, who retired from Tier 1, is reserving into Tier 1. And he is flying as best as he can to try and recuperate on the fact that his drivers could not make it to today's race. Wobby McQueen, P11 at the moment. As we see the AlphaTauri just ahead. That is the MZ Zoltz. That is the team principal for AlphaTauri trying to go for a move on Kudos. Returning driver. As now, unfortunate, very poor exit for Zoltzy. That does leave him very defenseless, and now Silvi through. You can see in the background as well, I'm just noticing there's so many battles going on into the first corner. Through goes Kazil, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Do apologize if I have mispronounced that. Goes through for P11, and as well Quen's up. So Wobbie McQueen down 3 places from the start of this lap now to the start of the next lap. He's down to 13th place, out of the points, and unfortunately the points are only available to the top 8. 8 points down to 1. So Kudo's currently sitting to score the final point available for this sprint race. Whoa, Quen's up getting very close to the rear end there of Kazil. Very close from contact. Again, let me remind you, these drivers do not have ABS, so it is very easy. You miss your braking zone. You can't just slam the brakes at 100%. You have to be gentle on it. You are going to suffer lockups, and that is going to be detrimental to your race. As Fat Cat as well. Both Mercedes. Unfortunately for you, Jakob, I have some bad news. Both of your drivers are sitting in 15th and 16th for this race, as we do have a position change between Mix and between Yuli. Unfortunately, I did not catch that just going into 130R. And now Mix on the inside will continue to defend into the chicane. Beautiful defense. Wasn't much of a defense, to be honest. He's got the exit, and he is going smoothly. This team was good until I took over. Panos did really well with Mercedes. He did indeed. But it happens to all team principals. Every team principal can make a mistake, and unfortunately yours, I feel like it's just tier 1. It's not a TP issue. I think it's just tier 1. You can get very unfortunate at times, and it feels like a curse to Mercedes, but I'm sure it isn't. You have to remember, I was Ferrari TP. My tier 2 drivers were always unfortunate. I think it was in season 6, unfortunately, Ghost Rider, and I can't remember who my other tier 2 driver was. They were constantly getting spun out. So it happens to the best of us, it happens to the worst of us. It's not a TP issue, it's just a matter of driver error or inconsistency with the grid. There's too many factors for me to try and list. So we do have another yellow flag, and I think that is going to be for Rico. It is quite a quiet grid at the moment for the sprint race. 4 laps in, Soybean with a 2-second lead to the rest of the drivers behind. He really is just, you know, putting in the work, putting in the perfect laps, and just breezing along ahead of everyone else. We are going to see a bit of a fight there between the 2 Alphas, Alfa Romeo versus Alpha Tauri, as Mr. Tachus goes through for P13, the 2-time F2 champion. The first F2 champion we ever got was Tachus, and then the first 2-time F2 champion was Tachus as well, as he gets through ahead of Wobbie McQueen going into 130R. And now we're going to have the Alpha Tauri try and go for a move down the inside onto the curb. Beautiful attack from Quenzup. Gets ahead of Wobbie McQueen. Beautiful fight, as we do also have now going to the first and second corner now. Julian goes through for P2. What is going on? Everyone is fighting, and it is fighting into the chicane and fighting into that first corner, as we have Tachus still closing in that gap. Of course, he wants to try and get as high as he can. Even if you don't score points in the sprint race, you can score yourself a perfect position to start for the race. 27 laps is up next, and whether you're on the inside or the outside of the circuit can make all the difference of you surviving turn 1, surviving turn 1, or at the very least, or at the best scenario, winning the race. I mean, we saw Nazar. Unfortunately, he did not win the race, but Nazar in Tier 2, he went from back of the grid on the inside of the circuit, on the right-hand side, to P1 on the last safety car restart. So anything is possible, as Julian is now closing that gap down. 1.6 seconds is the gap to Soybean. Perhaps Soybean just taking it easy a little bit. Of course, the drivers, all the drivers are on the soft tyres. All the drivers are hitting the 25% mark on those tyres. So they are going to slowly creep towards the loss of grip mark. But is it going to be enough for Julian to close 1.5 seconds in 3 laps time? Or 4 laps time, sorry. That is the question at hand. And here we go as we get a track limits penalty for Fat Cat, and Tachus with the DRS down the outside into the first corner. He does take the position, but oh my goodness, Quenzup from out of nowhere fights back, steamrolling down the inside into the first corner, takes P12, and Kudos as well at the back there, just having a fight with Brizin, taking P8 for Brizin. So the final point scoring position. I think Fat Cat is not enjoying his time at the moment in Tier 1. Of course, he still has an opportunity to recuperate and recover from where he is now. 1.7 seconds between Yuli and Soybean. But it is very quiet on the grid now. 3 laps left to go, coming down towards 130 yard. We're going to stay with Brisen here because there is a very nice train forming. Cos does try and look for a move down the inside. He's not quite close enough to try and put his nose there. But now down the inside into the Veil chicane, into the final chicane. Sorry, tries to get a good exit on GOVEE ahead of him. Couldn't quite do it. And it is now just a drag race to the first corner. I think it's going to be very smooth sailing for Cos Sylvie. Now through to P6, serving a qualifying ban. He's gone up to P7. They are fighting side by side. Brisen and Cos, both of them, of course, had the DRS, managed to get ahead of GOVEE. Cos Sylvie managing to stay ahead of Brisen. That was... I did not expect the Ferrari to appear from out of nowhere there. But very good racing from all parties included. It is very, very eerily quiet on the grid, I have to say. For a sprint race, I've seen a lot of battles in my time of commentating, and this is by far one of the quietest sprint races I've had. There's been very little to talk about. A very good number of fights. Obviously, coming into the chicane, you can see here, skill issue. Mix is really trying hard. He wants to try and get that P2. That's going to start him on the front row of the grid for the race. As Yulian goes to the inside, now coming back out to the outside, onto the racing line, trying to defend as much as he can. Mix is closing that gap in, but the DRS isn't as powerful as he once hoped on that straight. Of course, the weaving on the straight, I say weaving, it's not weaving, but the defense on the straight will not have helped him close that gap down. And the battle will go on, but this is certainly very, very quiet. Equally, it is a very tricky circuit. We go through the S's. You can see Mix almost losing the car, now having to cut some of the grass. Mr. Goat goes through for P3, and now down to P4. P5 goes Mix. He tries to defend as much as he can. Down the inside again. He is fighting like there is no tomorrow, and ahead of Adrian, ahead of the Williams. He stays on to P4, so he hasn't lost too much there from that one mistake. But he still has to now try and battle. 1.6 seconds to try and catch if he can to Mr. Goat ahead of him. The question is has he got the pace and the tyre life left? Every driver now is hitting 40% on their tyres. And that is where the drop-off is at. Really, it is incredible how much the tyres drop off when you hit 35 to 40%. Mr. Goat now 1.5 tenths, 2.5 tenths behind Yulian. Could this be the opportunity that he's been looking for? The final lap of the race, the final opportunity to have DRS across the line, now into the first corner. Can he get the move done on the inside? So close to hitting the barrier. And I think he's comfortably through. Mr. Goat now on for P2. A beautiful move. Perilously close to the wall there. I struggle to pronounce that. But now for the first sector, the lefts and the rights, the S's that are so tricky and so slippery on the tyres. He gets through them with ease, and he stays in P2. Still got 2 sectors left to go. Soybean's going to continue on strong with a 3-second gap. Of course, the drivers fighting behind him are going to seriously help. A small snap there from Yulian, keeps it under control and keeps on the pace very comfortably. Yellow flag at the back of the grid there. It's going to be for MZ Salt, I believe. Unfortunately, down to P14 now. as the two Alfa Romeos find themselves together, P10 and P11. 3 teams actually are next to their teammate. GOVEE and to choose for Alfa Romeo, Quenzup and Zoltz for AlphaTauri, and Rico and Fat Cat for Mercedes. Of course, none of them in the point scoring positions, not where they want to be, but certainly all very, very quick drivers, very talented drivers. And I suspect we're going to see quite a mighty comeback from the pair of them. Or from the all 3 teams, as around the outside goes Julian. That is a move I did not expect him to brave it around the outside, but he did, going through 130 and now around final chicane. We're going to have Soybean cross the line to win the sprint race, but Julian, with a beautiful move into 130R, secures the front row of the grid for the 27-lap race. Mr. Goat for P3, skill issue, unfortunately could not recuperate from that mistake. Stays in P4, still scores himself a handful of points. And going through the order, we've got Adrian, Koz, Brizin, and Kazil to finish the top 8 for all point-scoring positions. Unfortunately, Kudos just outside of the points by 6/10. And then you got the Alfa Romeos, 1 McLaren, 2 AlphaTauris, and 2 Mercedes, all out of the points. Let's have a look at where Rico is. Rico's just coming through the chicane now, and he's going to cross the line. Of course, losing that front wing will not have helped his race at all. But there's still got an opportunity to fight back. Fat Cat left to finish the race. He was given the challenge by his team principal. As we see him have just a moment there going through the spoon curve. His team principal Jakob, as far as I'm aware, gave him quite the challenge. Win the Tier 1 race, and you get promoted immediately to Tier 1. So I know you can cook, and I am going to trust that you can do it. As Fat Cat, as Mick says in the chat, I almost binned it. Fat Cat going through 130R does unfortunately bin it, just going onto the curves. And that is a reset to track. But I think the stewards may deem that as fine. We will see up to the stewards. So he comes drifting around the final corner. Those tyres are very much cooked. He's got 130 seconds. 130 seconds, a minute and a half to get to the line. Oh, how did he not lose his tyre there? That is impressive. Well done, Fat Cat. Crosses the line now. That's going to be the end of the sprint race. I think Fat Cat... No, I know. He definitely looks stuck on the curb. Which is why I'm saying it. I think he'll be fine. But Fat Cat, with a race that he definitely, I think, will want to put at the back of the mind. Never wanted to think about it again. Never want to concern himself with a Suzuka Sprint race again. But that's your qualifying, that's your sprint race results, folks. Soybean on top, no surprise there. Red Bull have certainly got quite a strong, I think overpowered is the right word, lineup for Tier 1. Julian for P2 and Mr. Goat for P3. In the second row, you've also got Mick. So Mick says he's almost binned it, and he did certainly miss out on a front row start. But we'll have to see. Fat Cat, absolute peak of skill there. I agree. I mean, that wasn't a skill issue. That was not a skill issue. It's exactly as your name suggests. So congratulations on that. I'll just grab a quick screenshot of the results. So I do apologise for you hearing that Steam sound that we all know and love. There we go, as my posters go flying off my keyboard. And we are going to go into the 27-lap race. Now, I would love to know, what are your predictions, Fat Cat? Jakob, Tix, Mix, the few drivers I remember off the top of my head. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be the first to retire from the race? Now, of course, I don't want to see anyone retire, but it's Suzuka. The unfortunate realistic situation for Suzuka is that we are going to have at least one retiree. I hope we do not have anything like we did, I think, a few rounds ago, maybe last season. We had a major incident at Hungary where multiple drivers were involved. So I'm hoping we don't have that again. A Merc 1-2 Trust. Well, Jakob, like I said, it is not into the skill issue for the... It's not a skill issue for the team principal. It's just a matter of poor luck at the weekend. Because it can happen to anyone. It can happen to everyone. So now, we wait for just a moment before I send the ready up message to the Tier 1 drivers. You can see them in the corner of the screen. What is that? We can see, what is that? I believe an Alpine and a Mercedes in the bottom left-hand, or bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And I think that's a Red Bull. The little pod right next to the right of the black box. I really can't see. It's very difficult to see. I think that has been more than enough time for the Tier 1 drivers. We're going to get going in just a moment. But Soybean with the fastest lap, 128.2, and that was with fresh softs. So the drivers are going to look to start on the hards or the mediums. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Should be live in just a moment. If my timing is right, if I've not somehow messed it up. 128.2. Guaranteed. I look at the paddock on my phone for just a moment. We're going to go. Yep, there it is. I knew it. 5 red lights for the Suzuka Grand Prix. And it is a sprint weekend. And away we go. It was a very, very slow start from a lot of the drivers. But Soybean gets away really comfortably into the first corner now. Julian still just slots in behind. Adrian fighting. There's a lot of contact going on there actually in the first corner. So the Alfa Romeo have a small moment, a small twitch there. Panicked, thinking that was going to be our first retiree. Thankfully not, but Adrian goes through for P5, Silvia P6, Kazil still in P8, Kudos P9, Techus P10, and Fat Cat is gone up by 4 positions. Ryan Gosling manages to join us on the grid. He's up into P14, and it is Wobby, it is Rico, it is Gravy, who unfortunately have not climbed positions. Rico, quite namely, is a very quick driver. Unfortunately, hasn't climbed at all. Soybean on the softs, Adrian on the softs, Kudos, and Ryan Gosling all on the softs. Of course, they're going to have a massive tyre advantage in the first few laps at least. I think it's around lap 6, maybe lap 7, when the softs really do start to cry out for some help. As we're going to see a move now from Kudos. Oh, as we got two pairs of 2. Fighting it out as now Brizin gets through ahead of Kazil, and now Mr. Techus gets ahead of Kudos for P9. So the soft tyre is not really advantageous as much as he wanted to, as down the inside goes Quen's up, and around 130R. Can he keep the position ahead of the Williams into the chicane? Out of the chicane he does comfortably, 1 car length ahead. Soybean with the fast lap, 130.5, and that's going to go tumbling down the order very quickly. As we go through the next few laps, there's a lot of movement going on. There's a few drivers going 3, 4, 5 wide as we now see the first driver to spin out. And that's going to be for Adrian. Williams driver has unfortunately been involved in a contact on the second lap of this race and has gone spinning out and down the order, down into 17th place now. Thankfully, no retirement, and we can see him keep going. We've got another spin there. That's going to be for MZ Zoltz, the team principal for AlphaTauri. Has just gone down a few positions, now down to P16. And who's that going wide? That's going to be Brizin going just a bit wide there as well. He's trying to give way to the drivers around. Of course, you want to rejoin to the track as safely as possible. Thankfully does so in a very dangerous, very tricky part of the circuit. Now around the hairpin, coming round towards the spoon curve. We're going to have Gravy down into P12. Ryan Gosling and Kudos, the 2 blue drivers on the grid, are going to fight out for position. Ryan Gosling starting at the back of the grid. Unfortunately, he joined right as the sprint race started, so couldn't put in a lap. Couldn't put anything in for the sprint race, so he started plumb last. And already for the second lap, he is now into the point. So an incredible start for him. You can see Wobby McQueen there trying to go for a position on Rico. Rico gets ahead. He couldn't quite defend. And now coming into the chicane, no driver looking to go for position just yet. As Soybean puts in the fast lap, 129. Never mind. Silvia with 129.4, and that's going to change a few times, I think, as Ryan crosses. No one changes. Brizin into the pits, for I believe that will be a fresh front wing. It will be a fresh front wing. Onto the hards. Can the hards go to the end of the race? I'm very curious to know if we've got any tier 2 drivers. I think Tix is currently engineering for Mercedes. I'd love to know your thoughts if the hards can go to the end of the race. We have a first retiree going through the S's. I didn't even spot anything happening. Fat Cat going through the S's through that first section has lost the car and has lost it in the wall. That is a full course caution. Safety car is out. Third lap of the race. Brizin had to pit for a fresh front wing, and this potentially could be huge for the Ferrari man. I say potentially, actually, no, they all got to stick to a Delta. But how many drivers are going to opt to pit now? Of course, this could be a one-stop race. I reckon, though, I have a good feeling a lot of these drivers are going to opt to go for a two-stop, grabbing the fresh pit stop now, off of the mediums, off of the softs, onto the hards, or onto another set of mediums, to then finish the race on a new compound. The grid is going to bunch up very quickly, but who's going to pit? I wonder if Soybean will. Of course, we've got 4 drivers who started on the softs. Adrian, unfortunately, the only driver to spin out on those softs after a contact on the second lap. And Soybean is not going to box. All right, okay. I was anticipating at least a few people going for a very early stop, but I guess no one wants to go for the early stop. Nope, never mind. There goes Wobbie McQueen into the pits, locks up just to stop his car in time for the pit limiter line. And he's going to go for an early stop. And the grid will now bunch up behind the safety car. Hopefully everyone can keep it safe, not lose any front wings. Wobbie onto the hards to finish the race potentially on those hards. Can you do 23 laps on them? I'm actually not aware. Unfortunately, unlike race weekends at the end of last season and for this season, I used to have some data, but unfortunately for this weekend, I don't have that data and I can't see what's going to go on. So every driver bar Wobbie McQueen opted to stay out on their tyres. Of course, this is going to extend their first stint, help secure that potential for a one-stop. Wobbie McQueen on fresh hards, Brisen on pretty much the equivalent of fresh hards. 1 lap old hards isn't going to make much of a difference. And they certainly will have the advantage if they have the pace off of the restart. Now, the safety car won't be in till the end of next lap, so it'll be lap 5 when the safety car goes in, lap 6 we are back racing, and lap 8 when DRS is enabled once again. And I think it'll be around that window when DRS is re-enabled when we will have them starting to box. Adrian, the Williams driver, is now going to box. Curious to note, we got Cos Silvi currently sitting with the fastest lap, sitting in P5. He's got a 129.4. Hopefully, with that qualifying ban that he has had to serve, he's able to, you know, climb the position. Same with Rico. Of course, that missing front wing for the sprint race didn't help him at all one bit. But interestingly enough, the fuel for the drivers is something I'm quite intrigued to know more about, because we got the likes of Mr. Goat and Mix. They've got a lot more fuel than the rest of the grid. I think they've got the most fuel compared to the rest of the grid. And then we've got the likes of Quenzup, I believe, with the fewest, the smallest amount of fuel. I'm not going to say what the amount of fuel is, because I know for a lot of engineers, the amount of fuel a driver has can be the make or break of them being able to win the race or to lose it all. I don't want to give some drivers that unfair advantage because they've got an engineer who's listening into the stream and finds out about the fuel information. If you have an engineer, they have engineer softwares out there. Probably about a couple hundred different applications out there that you can use. You can try and find out this information for yourself. But it is interesting to note that a lot of drivers have opted to start the race partially underfueled, with the anticipation for a potential safety car, which of course we do have now had one. We've had a virtual safety car as well. Safety car in this lap, as I predicted. And now the question is, when will Soybean pull the trigger? When will Soybean decide that it is the perfect time to absolutely gun it for the line and restart this race? For the first time this race. First sprint weekend. First safety car for a sprint weekend this season. Soybean, when is he going to go? Around the chicane. He's still waiting. He's still patiently waiting. Picking up the pace. There he goes. Just going past the marker for the pit entrance. He's going to go and across the line with a half-second gap. Look at the cluster of drivers behind Ferrari and Haas going side by side into the first corner. It's going to be the Haas going ahead into the first corner. We've also got a fight going on as Quenzup goes off of the track and very wide onto the runoff there. Mr. Goat battling with Cos Silvi. Cos Silvi now through to P4. There is a lot going on through the S's. Oh, very close between contacts between there. Ryan Gosling, I believe, and Mr. Chus. Thankfully, Mr. Chus keeps control of the car very well. Doesn't collide with his teammates. Now a 5-way battle for the final point scoring positions. Both Alfa Romeo sitting in the final couple points as to Chus with a massive snap there on exit. Unfortunately, losing out of position to his teammate. Can he defend, though, to Rico down the inside into the hairpin? There's contact between the two teammates. Rico on the inside. Wobbin McQueen on the inside as well. Two pairs of two again on the exit of the hairpin. As now we come round towards the spoon curve. It is going to be gravy to Rico into the points as to Chus and Wobbin McQueen are still just out of the points. Thankfully, no front wing damage for the Alfa Romeo. For a moment there, I did think hope was lost with a front wing, with a damaged front wing this early on with a safety car restart. It is going to be detrimental to your race, especially on a circuit where you really need that grip. As Wobbin McQueen notably is on the fresher hards. Of course, he's not going to have the pace compared to the drivers around him. As you do see a Haas, not the Haas, the Alpha Tauri going very wide through 130R. The hard tyres are not going to have the advantage in the opening stages of this race. As now Cos Silvi goes through for an Aston Martin 2-3. But give it around 3 or 4 laps. Those hards are really going to come into picture. And really have that grip. It is a surprise to see Fat Cat out very early. Unfortunately, he lost it going through the S's of the first sector, which caused the first full course caution and a safety car. He had a lot of hopes for this race. His team principal promised him if he had won Tier 1, he would be promised a full-time seat in Tier 1. Unfortunately, that did not go his way, and so Fat Cat, well, that's up to his team. Does he still have an offer on the table, potentially? Try and fight in Tier 1. The two Aston Martins fighting very closely. Hopefully we can see some team orders here. Can they pull each other along? Can they close that gap down to Soybean and destroy the Red Bull dominance? I don't drive anymore. Well, very unfortunate to see you drive no more, Fat Cat. I mean, you're a very talented driver, and it is a lot of fun to see how well you can do. But we're going to stay on board with Cos Silvi, and I think that could be some team orders perhaps between the pair of them. I know they're in a call together as they go through 130R, and Cos Silvi is now on the hunt for Soybean. Can P1 be in the sights for Aston Martin? Could we see? I'm not going to jinx it, but I think there is potential for an exciting podium finish in this race as Kazil with the DRS gets through and ahead of Mr. Goat now, well before the first corner. Now Red Bull in a 1-5 position. Can he close the gap down, Kazil? He's got to be up there. He's got to try and help his teammate. I'm not going to turn on telemetry, unfortunately. As I mentioned earlier, if you are an engineer, there is software out there. Public telemetry is set to public, so you are able to gather this information for yourself. As we see Kazil with a massive snap going through that second sector. Almost loses the car into the wall. He's lost not 1, not 2, but he's lost 5 positions. 4 or 5 positions now. And he's down to P10. How he kept it out of the wall, I do not know. The grass there is horrendous. And he keeps it out of the wall. He's defending as much as he can now. He's got Rico just ahead of him. He's got Quenzup behind. And Quenzup and Tachus are fighting so close against each other now. Oh, there is contact. There is contact. The two Alphas have had contact. There's now going 3-1. What is this? This is not going to go well. Please, no! As we have 2 retirees, Quenzup and Mr. Tachus. as we have a 5-car, 6-car battle going down towards 130R. Both of them have collided with one another. I stopped commentating for a second because I saw what happened. And I couldn't work out what was going to happen. And both of them have now retired. Everyone is going to dive into the pits. The perfect opportunity to get off of those old tyres onto those fresher tyres. Wobbin McQueen now leads this race. Zolt's just behind. Brizin and Adrian behind. All of them have stopped early in this race. And we have our second safety car. What? I am so very confused. I'm going to have to review that clip multiple times to work out what happened. But from first glance, I can't even say from first glance. I don't know what happened. I know I'm speechless. I'm entirely speechless as to what has happened there. I know the stewards are going to have a fun time having to try and, you know, go through the reports and try and work out what happened. Hopefully, none of the stewards pull their hair out trying to sit there and work out who's at fault, if anyone is at fault. I'm being very... I'm jumping to conclusions, but it's very difficult to not jump to conclusions from what little glimpse that I saw there. To choose caused half the spin and spoon. I don't know about the crash. I agree with you there, Vers. Actually, no, it wasn't to choose. It was the Alpha Tauri on the inside, the Alfa Romeo on the outside. You saw the contact. That's where I completely stopped talking because I couldn't work out what was about to happen. And you could see that they had basically collided. The two tyres were locked. What then happened going down towards 130R? I can't work out for the life of me what happened. But I do know this was almost a repeat accident of what happened between GG Land and Panos just 2 seasons ago. I think it was season 7 was when this happened. Panos and GG Land fighting very, very hard, very close, pardon me, to each other for the race lead. I think it was a race lead at the time. And the pair of them collided in that same area of the circuit. And I'm very... The AlphaTauri was alongside into the corner to choose to leave space. Well, we'll have to see. I know that that's going to be talked about a few times by a few drivers. I'm certainly going to have a look into it a few times. Yeah, 7 cars into one certainly don't work. I have to agree with you there. I mean, as soon as the cluster happened, as soon as you saw the cluster happen, it was, yeah. Very unfortunate end for 2 very promising drivers, 2 incredibly quick drivers, and hopefully we'll be able to see them come back next week at China with a lot more pace and are able to recuperate from any mistakes or anything that might have happened just there. But now, safety car, we're going to have to wait to the end of this lap. Safety car will be in for lap 11. And we're going to have DRS again for lap 13. Second safety car of the race. China is next, yes. No, China is not next. I've got the calendar completely wrong. It is Zandvoort next. My apologies. Zandvoort next, then China. I don't know my own calendar. I swear, I'm on my A game today. So we have a bit of a lock up there from the Haas driver. Just going into the hairpin. Safety car in this lap, and Wobbin McQueen, for the first time this season, he retired from Tier 1. He didn't have, he didn't have the confidence, nor did he have the pace. The data didn't back up the fact that he had the pace for Tier 1, but he's reserving in now, as McLaren have 2 drivers on the grid, although you only see 1 McLaren emblem. Ryan Gosling is a McLaren driver. Unfortunately, the game has just chucked him into an Alpine seat. And now we go into 130R. We should get that message pop up on our screen. You can see the gap now starting to form. Safety car should be in this lap. There it is. And Wobbin McQueen, for the first time in this race, will be restarting. For the first time in this season, leading the pack on a safety car restart. Here we go. When will the team principal go? I know he can be very hot-headed at times. I know he can be very enthusiastic at times. And he can be very competitive at times. But he's gone basically at the same time as Soybean, just before the barrier for the pit entrance. And it looks like Brizzen wasn't caught off guard. We're going to have a 3-wide battle between the Williams, the Red Bull, and the Aston Martin. Soybean's going to come through just ahead of him. Thankfully, no contacts in that 3-wide battle as we go through now for the second sector. For the second sector of S's in this first sector. Soybean on the hunt on those mediums. He's going to have such a tyre advantage, such massive tyre advantage to the drivers around him. But will that strategy hold up to the end of the race? That is the question at hand now. Soybean 1.5 tenths behind Brizzen. Soybean for the win. Verz, aren't you a Ferrari driver? You're signed to Ferrari and you're rooting for a Red Bull driver. I feel like that's... I know it's not on the contract to support Ferrari, but I feel like you should be supporting Ferrari. But into the spoon curve now. Soybean still waiting patiently. There's no need to pounce. There's no need to attack too aggressively. Of course, with that tyre advantage, he can wait patiently. Now, Brizzen going to the outside, just touching onto the grass. That's going to lose him some time, lose him some grip. Soybean now goes through P3. And now we're going to have Julian try and go for a move into the 130R. He does now take P3. And so now... top 3 is Wobby to Soybean to Julian. As we come to cross the line, I think Soybean might not be done with this fight. He's going to try and go for a move now. And he is comfortably. He doesn't need to wait for that DRS into the first corner. He is now ahead and back into the lead of the race. And now we're back onto this Verstappen of this race. And we're going to see what else happens. My direct drive almost destroyed my wrist because of that crash. Tachus, I hope you are doing okay. Hope no serious injury from that incident. I would love to know more as to what happened though, because it was as Verz and I were trying to work out what happened, it was very difficult to see who was at fault or what happened between the pair of you. Both alphas for a battle of position. As Cos Sylvie is looking for a move coming out the hairpin. He had the exit, he had the speed to try and get ahead of Gravy, but unfortunately couldn't quite get on the power as quick as he wanted to. But now he's going to go for a move down the inside into Spoon Curve now. And he is bashing wheels with the Alfa Romeo, but I think it is fair racing between the two of them. Very, very rough racing between the two of them. As Cos now through up into P9. As Julian gets through and ahead of Wobby McQueen for P2. We're going to stay on board with this battle, though, because we're going to have two pairs of 2 wide as Cos Sylvie goes through for P8. And Brian Gosling still defending as much as he can, along with Adrian behind. Sorry, no, Adrian and Kazil fighting behind for position. A 4-car, 3-car battle. Oh, very, very close. Very heart-clenching to see what's going to happen as Kazil, very smooth move, very easy move, goes through for P9 now. As we now have another bit of a contact there between Adrian and Gravy. According to what I see here, no front wing damage, thankfully, so they are still going to be able to keep going at full pace. But Rico is the name I did not expect to still see in the bottom few positions. Rico sitting in P12, no front wing damage like the sprint race, and he is still trying to recuperate as much as he can. And his teammate retiring quite early doesn't really help at all as he tries to go for a move down the inside, trying to defend it, from Kudos. And into the hairpin. Now on the exit, he's got the Williams still side by side. And unfortunately, Kudos not quite got the exit, not able to get ahead. Jakob, I caught stray dive bombs from him all last season, is fair game. Keep it on track and join ACC and terrorize him there. Well, you are welcome to join ACC, but please do not terrorize each other in ACC. But, yes, to choose. I'd love to have an interview with you if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to know what happened in that incident. As we go through the chicane now, oh, very close. Rico all over the gearbox of Gravy, all over the gearbox of his old F1 team. He once was signed to Alfa Romeo. He then got signed I think he got signed with Alfa Romeo again, but then he had to retire, unfortunately, as there is contact between GOVEE and the Williams. Both Williams, in fact, have gone off on the grass there. GOVEE has gone wide. He's gone onto the runoff. And so now both Williams, I'm sure Snaff is watching in the distance. Snaff or Crumpet, sorry. Both of them, team principal and assistant team principal, are not enjoying this race. I'm sure they're not enjoying to see the fact that their drivers are at the back of the grid. Still 13 laps left to go. Rico in a point-scoring position now, but he's got a 3-second gap ahead as we have a battle going on finally at the front of the grid. It's going to be Brizin and Mix. Two very fast drivers, two incredibly talented drivers. And we're going to see this go on for a little while, as you do see the Ferrari teammate at the back there, Cos Silvi and Rico battling out. Down the inside goes Cos Silvi into the Toon curve, and now coming down towards 130R. In just a moment, Cos Silvi has got himself an Alpine ahead of him. My hotel Wi-Fi. Well, if you're on hotel Wi-Fi, I think what you need to do is you need to go to a McDonald's, you know, or go to a Tesco's if you got a Tesco's near you. Pick up the Wi-Fi from there. That'll be better. As we have a spin going into the final chicane, Cos Silvi, contact between Cos and another driver. Unfortunately, I could not quite see who it was. But into the chicane, Cos Silvi is spun. Now P10, now battling with GOVEE behind. As we're going to have a 3-wide battle into the first corner. Very close between Ryan and Goat there. Thankfully, no victims into that first corner. Whew. I like close battles. I don't like close scares. These drivers are very talented, are very quick, and are very strategic with where they put their cars, but sometimes I really have a heart-in-mouth moment where I feel like all of that hope for a 5-car, 6-car battle, as you can see here on this screen, you got the McLaren, the Haas, the Ferrari, the Red Bull, the Ferrari, and the Alpine, all fighting so close together. It's a heart-in-mouth moment where, for some reason or another, they're banging wheels, and you think that is going to be it. That is going to be someone spinning into the wall, and thankfully, they have managed to avoid that, and they're going to continue to avoid that as Ryan Gosling is looking to try and go for a move on Mr. Goat there. Unfortunately, not quite close enough into the spoon curve. We've got 130R in a moment, and I know a lot of these drivers love overtakes into 130R. Are they going to pull a Michael Schumacher and a Fernando Alonso? Are we going to see a daring driver go around the outside as Brizin gets passed by Kazil there? Unfortunately, we're not going to see that too-wide battle. All drivers are talented. All talented drivers make mistakes. That is all I'm going to say on that, as Brizin unfortunately makes a mistake going into the hairpin, or into the chicane there, unfortunately losing out on 2 positions. His teammate, Mr. Goat, and Ryan Gosling gets through now for P6 and 7 as Mix with the DRS gets through into the first corner ahead of Wobbly McQueen. Once leading this race, now down to P4. He's on the whole old hard compound tyres, and I think he's going to be looking to finish the race on potentially the mediums or on a very risky approach onto the softs for Wobbly McQueen. Thank you, Levente. I was just thinking of having a sip of water. But across the board, hards and mediums, every driver are around 21 to 25% on those tyres. But of course, Wobby and Brizin, 2 drivers who pitted earlier than the rest of the grid onto the hards, will have much more worn out tyres, including the likes of Adrian as well in P14. Wobby is cooking. I have to say, I am quite impressed with Wobby's skill. He's been doing quite well so far this race, leading it at one point, now down to P4. Potential for a podium if he can close that gap down to Julian. Of course, he could try and go for that move there, and unfortunately, into 130R, he has to be very cautious on that approach there. And there goes Kazil for P4. P1, Skyzer, breaking news, no surprise here. Mr. Verstappen Soybean is in P1 with a 3.5 second gap almost to Julian behind. We're going to stay on board here with Webby and Mr. Goat. This battle is going to continue on as Ryan Gosling is now 1.5, 2.5 tenths behind through the S's now. The 5 drivers. This is a beautiful angle. You can see the cornering of the circuit. How much of the curves they can take. How much of a camber these corners have. And a camber, for those of you who don't know, camber is when the track tilts. So like going into Zandvoort turn 1, there is a I think it's like a 20-degree camber. I want to say it's 20 degrees, but I feel like that's horrendously wrong. But there is a camber onto the first few corners for Zandvoort, and that really does help the tyres, really does help the car get around the corner, as Mr. Goat did look for a moment there for a move down the inside into the hairpin, but now with a horrible exit, we're going to see Ryan Gosling try and go for a move. He's going to look to the outside, look to the inside, look to the outside again. Could it be the time for Ryan Gosling to get ahead into the spoon curve? And unfortunately, he's not quite close enough. He's going to have to stay in P7 at the moment, but he is pushing, he's almost pushing the Ferrari along. He's been staying within that 2/10 gap, 1.5 gap to the Ferrari ahead, but hasn't quite got that speed to be able to get ahead, as Wobbin McQueen is just moving to the inside now for the chicane. He's going to try and defend from the Ferrari, and down the inside goes Ryan Gosling to the hairpin. There is a bit of wheel banging there, but fairly clean racing. Almost a spin there from Ryan and Mr. Goat. Thankfully, no driver has died. Now we're going to have a 4-wide battle. It is Aston Martin, Alpine, Ferrari, and Mercedes, all down to the first corner. Contact between the Alpine and the Mercedes there. No front wing damage on my data sheet here. Again, another heart-in-mouth moment. Could that have been so much worse? It could have been, but thankfully it isn't. Ryan Gosling gets through and ahead of his team principal, Wobbin McQueen. Wobbin McQueen trying to defend as much as he can. He's got Brisen just behind. A beautiful camera angle again as we now go through, what is this, corners 8, 9, and 10 very soon, going towards the hairpin. 4 seconds for Soybean. Soybean is just, he's on his own journey. What is going on? That is a very good question. This is very close racing. I have to say, very good racing. It has been quite an interesting race so far. It's very unfortunate that we had 2 safety cars, but to some extent the safety cars has really brought the pack together, and everyone's on the same strategy more or less. Wobbin McQueen, to no surprise, he is going to get swallowed up very quickly. You have to remember, he's on those old hards along with Brisen. For them to be still in the points is quite a miracle for them. As Kazil tries to go for a very low move around the outside, now on the inside for the chicane. Can he get the exit? He can get the exit, and he's now through on for a podium finish. 5 seconds is the gap to Julian. He's got 8 laps left to go. If he closes that gap down, he gets it down to 3 seconds, he could be on to help secure a Red Bull 1-2. But Soybean, on the mediums, he has to, there's no way he can go another 8 laps on those mediums before the hards really start to drop off. Everyone is going to be looking to finish this race on the softs, I imagine. And so it is going to be very, very close. And I agree with you there, Vers. I have no clue what's going on with Rico getting very close to being into the wall, punted into the wall. Even in Phoenix, we have a Red Bull 1-2. Indeed we do. But it is very good to see. As much as we may not like having to see Red Bull 1-2s constantly, race after race, in real life, it is a delight to see it in Phoenix because it is always a new race winner. We've always had a new race winner over the seasons. It's now with Soybean here, who's putting up a challenge, basically putting up the challenge of, if you can best me, you can best the best. That made sense in my head, okay. 18 laps on the medium is more than possible. I don't know. I'm looking at considering the tyre degradation on this circuit as Gravy gets through now for ahead of Wobby. Oh, hold on a minute. 130R. There is another contact. Oh, Soybean almost into the barrier there. As I was just talking about the tyres, Wobbin McQueen threw 130R into the wall. And I think that might have been contact between him and Gravy. Gravy did get through ahead of him. But we'll have to see. Why is Soybean overtaking the safety car? Okay, he's overtaking the safety car, I guess. Yeah, okay. EA, thank you. I lost my train of thought. 18 laps on the mediums is more than possible. SKG driver did 16 laps on the mediums and 4 within into conditions. I mean, that's fair enough. And I think, you know, makes the right point. Soybean, if anyone can do it, it's going to be Soybean. The safety car is going to certainly help, quite immensely help that. But equally, I think that's going to be quite terrible for Soybean. yeah, so I think he was going to go for the softs with that late safety car. I know I'm watching Kazeel. But I think it'll be... Oh, wait, yeah, no, yeah, okay. No, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, no, Kazeel almost went for the pits, not Soybean. Gotcha. Wobby McQueen, what happened? Team principal for McLaren unfortunately retired from the race going through 130R. Gravy, I saw, did go through ahead of you on the timing sheets, but unfortunately I was too busy spectating the Red Bull and confusing myself for the Red Bull. I didn't see what happened. And there you have it. Every driver, or at least the top 5 so far, are all going to look to box. Brisbane actually looking in a very comfortable position, sitting in P5 on that very early stop onto the hards. He's going to come out, I think he's still going to come out ahead of his teammate quite comfortably. Well, actually, I say comfortably. Here comes Mr. Goat, crosses the line now. No, Brisbane is going to be just behind his teammate. He's going to be behind the Alpine as well. But Brisbane's still in a very comfortable position for the soft compound tyre. And every driver is on the softs. It is a tier 2 replica now, where we had a very late safety car. And everyone is on the soft compound tyre. Adrian's still on the hards. Very curious to know why he's opted to stay out. Yeah, Mr. Bust won the Tier 2 race, and it was quite an incredible race. It was very good. It was a good strategy call. It was great safety car restart for him. And of course, as I mentioned here, you know, everyone's on the soft tires. Everyone's going to have as much grip as they ever wanted to ever have. So, yeah. Right, Soybean, safety car restart, 6 laps left to go. Hopefully my lungs can finish this race without me dying, as Soybean again at the same point as he did before, half a second back to Julian. He is away, and he is flying for the first corner of this race. For the first corner of the restart, lap 24 for DRS, 3 laps of DRS. This is going to be very close. No point in looking at Soybean. No offense, Soybean, but you're far too quick. And I think the competition is not going to be anywhere near you for this race. As we go through the S's now, nice group of drivers. We've got a group going from Yuli. Oh, hold on. Before we go there, we're going to have Cos Silvi try and go for a move. He tried really close, almost tapping the wall. Thankfully, not hitting it. And now look at that train. That was honestly, that is a sight to see. It is always a delightful sight to see as the Alpine goes down the inside. Contact between Ryan Gosling and Mr. Goat. There's still continued contact. Locking of wheels between the pair of them. As Ryan Gosling gets through and ahead of Mr. Goat. Adrian, I have no clue what Adrian is doing. I'm very curious to know why he's opted to stay out on the old hards whilst everyone else is on the fresh softs. I cannot guess as to what reason he went. If Soybean doesn't win, Darkness will have a heart attack. Honestly, I might do. I just might do. As Kazeel goes through now for P3 into 130R. It is going to be Very close racing, but now Kazil, 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds to Julian. Whilst Julian may have a 3-second time penalty to serve at the end of the race, can he get that on-track victory for a Red Bull 1-2? Send that Aston Martin tumbling down the order further than he ever expected, as now we're going to see Cos Sylvie try and battle it out with Mix. I jumped back a little too far as Gravy gets through and ahead of Brizen. Mix defends from Cos Sylvie, so P4 still for the Haas man. Oh. Rico back into the points. I have to say, I am still quite... It is upsetting to see a very fast, very talented driver such as Rico to be caught up in a lot of incidents at a circuit that I'm not sure if he enjoys, but it's certainly a circuit I expected him to be incredibly quick with. But I mean, as I mentioned to Jakob, you know, these things do happen. Some of the best drivers will have mistakes. You hope that it never happens, but it can. Think of it as a blip in Rico's career, where unfortunately he's down into P10. He's only going to score 1 point provisionally from this race. But we've seen him win races. We've seen him score podium after podium. We've seen him absolutely blitz the field because he has that pace. So it can happen to the best of us, and it can happen to the worst of us. As now we're going to see a battle between Cos and Mix. And I say it's going to be a battle. It's going to be smooth sailing for Cos Sylvie as he's got that DRS advantage. He's getting that toe as well from the Red Bull ahead. And he's now going to go through on for P4. And it could provisionally be a P3 if the Red Bull and the Aston can work together. If they somehow work together and not fight, they don't lose time ahead. Then again, Cos Sylvie, of course, he is going to be teammates. He's going to work with the team and work to keep Julian ahead. Try and battle as much as he can. Slow down Kazil and reduce the risk of losing at that P2. So there's a lot still on the table. Aston Martin and Red Bull are in a fight of their own now for the top 4, as Mix is looking to try and mix things up, pun intended, to try and change the order. Can he put a Haas up there? Boosty did win the race a while back. Boosty now into the stream, checking for P1. P1 is Boosty, not Boosty, P1 is Soybean. Thank you for redeeming all of those points. I will check P1 in a second, because the battle is here between Haas and Alpine. If anything, you should be redeeming Hydrate and Breathe, because I need to breathe, please. But can the skill issue man, can the Haas team principal really start to mix things up and stop Cos Sylvie from helping his teammate? Is there is contact between the Alpine and the Haas? Thankfully, Haas keeps it control. There you go. You get a CP1. Now, 0.9 seconds between Soybean and Julian. The the viewers have asked for P1 and P1 and P1. So we will look at Soybean for the next sector. And we're going to see nothing but flawless driving. This man is on fire. He is absolutely putting in every perfect corner that he could ever imagine for this circuit. I've not seen him put a foot wrong in this race, even with the strategy call to go to the mediums, and you can see his ERS flight is flashing. That means he's under 10%. He has still not put a foot wrong in this race. You're seeing we are crying the death of darkness. No, if my voice was dying this stream, then it should have died 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when I was ill. So, thank you, Jakob. I will not have the drink. It's fine. We got a lap and a half, or 2.5 laps left to go. Apologies. So we now come towards 130R. And could it be? Could we see? I will be more than happy to add a check last after this stream. Could we see Soybean on track lose this race? Julian is still within a second. And DRS will be enabled in just a moment. And he's going to have the pace. He's going to have the advantage. Or rather, DRS is probably... Yeah, DRS is already enabled. Apologies there again. But I don't think Soybean will crash last lap. I mean, Brazil last season, his words, as he put it, I was driving like a grandma. But I don't think he's going to make this mistake. I don't think he's sandbagging. I think he is pushing, but he's also got to be careful There's no point in making unnecessary mistakes and taking unnecessary risks so close to the end of the race, especially with Julian having that 3-second time penalty. Why risk it? Because, of course, if Julian gets ahead, Julian doesn't win the race. He still has a 3-second time penalty to serve. So we have a yellow flag there for MC Zoltz there, and Adrian now pits. We have a look at what tyres he's going to go for. Thankfully, it is going to be for the softs. Could he pit? There is the opportunity for him to try and steal the fastest lap, but I think Soybean is going to secure it comfortably. A 1:27.8 for the reigning champion. I think that's going to be a very difficult time to beat. Have we checked P1 enough? I know you've redeemed it about 1,000 times now, but can I look at other drivers now? Is that okay with you guys? I'm gonna check anyways, even though you've not answered me in time. We're gonna look at this cluster. We have ourselves a train for the final lap of the race. We've got Alpine to Ferrari to Alfa Romeo to Ferrari to Mercedes and to Williams. I'm not going to check P1 again, as we're going to see the Ferrari get through and ahead, trying to get through ahead of Ryan Gosling. There is contact between the pair of them as the Ferrari goes just a bit wide, and now there goes the Alfa Romeo and into the wall, retired from the race. Goes Gravy. The second Alfa Romeo is now out of this race after a potential contact with the Ferraris, now sitting in P7 and P8. Both Alfa Romeos are now out of this race, which opens the door for Kudos, returning driver in a very, very long time. It is nice to see a familiar face on track. Kudos on a return, signed with Williams, is going to score a point now, potentially score a point, sorry, at Suzuka. As chaos ensues in the Alfa Romeo garage, Tachus, of course, very upset. His teammate now retired from the race. Coincidentally, I've just had a look, both of you. I'll come back to that point, as now as we come into the chicane, we're going to have Soybean cross the line, but we're not going to look at that. We're going to look at this fight between the Ferrari and the Alpine and the Ferrari. Contact between the pair of them, and on the exit is going to be a very close battle. It's going to be Alpine ahead, and very close. Rico got ahead by 9/1000ths of a second. Rico steals P8 from Brizin. Right to the line, he steals it by 9/1000ths of a second. What a way to finish the race. And Kudos, as I mentioned, does score that one lap in P10, that 1 point in P10. And unfortunately, Zoltz and Adrian, two drivers out of the points, and we have 5 drivers out of this race. Gravy on the on the penultimate lap has retired from the race. Bobby McQueen through 130R. Quen's up, and Tachus have a collision going into 130R in Fat Cat Batman into the first S's of the race on lap 2. Loses the car and unfortunately retires from the session. That's going to be it for Tier 1. I need a new set of lungs. I definitely am still not 100% and I'm not enjoying this. Average Suzuka race. I really hope this is not the average Suzuka race. I really hope this doesn't become a recurring pattern. I am hoping to see a lot more drivers finish each and every race. But there you have it, folks. Soybean scoring the maximum potential points available on the table. That's 34 with the fastest lap after winning the sprint race and the full race. Julian for P2, 22 points and 21 points for Cos Silvi. And I have to say, my driver of the day is 100% going to go to Cos Silvi, because he went from the back of the grid to the front of the grid and finishes on the podium. Not only does he finish on the podium, but he secures that crucial double finish for Aston Martin. And that is going to be a huge number of points for the team and a lot of money in the bank for Aston Martin. The team principal is going to be very happy with that. That's going to be Levente, who was once the Alpine team principal last season and now promoted through up into... I say promoted, it's not... They're all the same team, but promoted through to Aston Martin. But there you have it, folks. I do apologise for not the best commentary that I've done in the past, but it was still certainly an interesting and a very exciting race to spectate. 11 finishes in the points. Kudos at the end there with that 1 point. And 3 drivers on par with 4 points. Rico, Brizan, and Adrian all with 4 points as they finish this session. And we are going to have, well, I hope we have a couple of interviews at the end of this race, or at the end of this session. And we'll have ourselves, what is that, Zandvoort next season, or next week. Right, let's have a look. Who are we going to have an interview with today? I'd like to speak to Choose at the very least. I'd love to know what happened in that race and in those battles. I'd love to have a conversation with our race winner, Soybean. If you'd like to join, it'd be a delight to have a conversation with you to know how you did not set a foot wrong during that race. And then, of course, we have Julian and we have Cos Sylvie, teammates for Aston Martin, who stayed up there and managed to secure themselves a double podium. So massive congratulations to them for that. Now, let's put this audio on right. And we're actually going to speak... Well, actually, let's have a look first. You are going to look at a black screen for just a moment, but let's see if I can get Cos Sylvie and Soybean. If they are interested in some interviews, it would be a delight to be able to have a conversation with them. If they don't join, we will have a conversation with Choose first. And in fact, we will just do that. Mr. Choose, welcome to the commentary box, Mr. Choose. First of all, I'd like to... I'd like to know, first of all, I'm really upset to see that, obviously, you retired from that race. As you mentioned, you almost broke your wrist with that collision. How are you doing after that race? I hope you're doing fine.
My wrist doesn't make any bizarre noise, so I think it's okay.
That's good, that's good. What happened in that incident? I'm very curious to know what happened from your point of view.
It's unfair. He pushed me, so I pushed him back, and after that, he pushed me off the track. It's unfair. No, but
So it was a bit of back and forth between the pair of you.
Yeah, that was a little bit hard to understand first when I see the record. But I think it's just some net code what happened. Like he tried to overtake Wabi, but I have some synchronous sync problem. And for him, I was behind, but for me, I was just next to him. So when he tried to overtake Wabi, he just turned into me, and we go into the wall. Just sync problem.
Wow, it was a very unfortunate end. Thankfully, you are unhurt from that incident, and hopefully we can see you absolutely come back, score a lot of points. You got Zandvoort next week. Is that a strong circuit for you? Do you think you've got some good pace to show off there?
If it rain, yes. If it's dry, I don't know. I'm good at Zandvoort, but the last time I raced in Zandvoort, it was I had DNF. So
I'll make sure to go there and turn on
good.
the sprinklers.
Hmm?
I'll make sure to go there and turn on the sprinklers. Make sure it's very wet for you guys when you get there.
I will pay you for that.
Well,
little money so you can have it rain.
a very unfortunate race end for you and for your teammate. On the penultimate lap, the one lap you don't want anything to go wrong, and unfortunately Gravy has that go wrong for him. But we'll have to see what you guys can do next week. Zandvoort, hopefully it is rain weather. You know, hopefully you've bribed me enough. I mean, hopefully you've paid me enough to make it rain.
How much do you want?
But we'll have to see what you've got in store for us. Very unfortunate race, but we'll see what you've got next week. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Goodbye.
And we are going to speak now to the Champ Bean, the man who has won race after race. And for this race, he has not put a foot wrong. Mr. Bean, first of all, congratulations on a very well-deserved race victory. I mean, that was smooth sailing for you. It looks like you did not put a single foot wrong. You had the right strategy. I mean, tell me, how was that race for you?
I mean, yeah, it was decent. I mean, yeah, as you said, the the strategy was good. It was mostly smooth. I mean, I was on the grass a few times and making a few little mistakes, but otherwise it was pretty nice. Good track as well, Suzuka, of course. And yeah, strategy was good as well. I thought I started on softs last time and it worked pretty well, so I thought I'd try it again. And then, yeah, same sprint race and in the race as well. Just managed to get out with DRS pretty quickly, and then just yeah, sitting in front until the safety car came, and then it was almost perfect time to pit. So it is how it is pretty much. And then at the near the end of the race, it was pretty much like guaranteed there was going to be a safety car at some point. So it wouldn't have mattered too much because I was like saving tires in case I needed to go all the way to the end, but there was, and there was a little bit of a threat from Julian behind towards the end, but I think I had it covered. Like it wasn't too much of an issue, but yeah, he was very fast compared to everyone else as well. Uh, a lot of carnage in the back, so thankfully we avoided that. I just had to keep getting used to the game during the race because I've been driving a GT3 car for the last
Yeah.
24 hours, so it was pretty different, but we still managed to pull through, got all the points, I think, even fastest lap as well. So we did what we could do, and yeah, hopefully my teammates here next time and we can get some more points for the team because Aston Martin are kind of running away with it at the minute. They keep getting podiums pretty much. So yeah, we'll see what we can do next race, but overall pretty good. I don't mind at all.
You certainly had me a bit worried on the mediums. I did not expect you to be able to finish the race on 18 lap old mediums. Vers and I think Tix were saying that if anyone can do it, it's going to be you because you've got the pace and you've got the strategy to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken the mediums over 20 laps at Japan. I did it
Okay,
in 10C once, so I had to, and I ended up winning the race that time. But yeah,
fair
so I
enough.
was
I
gonna
guess it's
stay out no
possible.
matter what. Yeah, it is very possible at least, and I wasn't gonna go on the hards because I do not like the hards. I'll start the race on them maybe just so I can get a better strategy towards the end, but I do not like the hards at all. So
Fair enough.
um, yeah, started on the softs. I don't know. I usually change up the strategy every few races, so we'll see what happens. But most things will seem to work. You can do a lot of things nowadays. So yeah, that's the race, and we'll keep trying to extend the gap, I guess.
So you got Zandvoort now round the corner. What's that circuit like for you? Is that one you like? Is that one you despise with the cambers?
um, I don't really have any feelings about it. I don't think people usually do big races around Zandvoort often, so I haven't done it. But yeah, it is a nice track. I think it's just you have to be pretty precise because if you hit a curb, you're going off the track. So it's definitely one of the more difficult ones, and I'll definitely have to put a little bit of practice in to get used to it at least because I've done Japan before a few times, but Zandvoort never. So yeah, we'll see, but I think we can do pretty well still.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again on that race victory. As like I said on the stream, I mean, you did not put a foot wrong. You basically you were calm and collected, and you definitely had the pace without a doubt at the end of the race without that last safety car. But I look forward to see what you got for us for the Dutch Grand Prix next week. Hopefully, not choosing for who, but I'm hoping there's a bit of rain. 'Cause I feel like, in my opinion, I'd like to know your opinion actually on this. Do you think the races are better when it's a full dry race, or do you prefer when it's going to wet to dry or dry to wet? Do you think that offers more opportunities for different winners and different strategies?
I'm not gonna lie, your mic did just cut out for about 10 seconds, but I think I got the question. So yeah, I wouldn't mind some rain. At least there was rain last week as well, and that went pretty well. Well, at least in quali. But it would definitely make it more interesting. So I'd say probably ending the race on wets is probably quite interesting because starting it just might cause carnage, and I don't really mind either way. But yeah, a bit of rain would definitely make it interesting. And at Zandvoort, I feel I feel like it's definitely possible because it's quite high grip. So, and it will make it interesting with the camber, like you said. So, definitely will be a challenge. But I think everyone would be, well, most people would be up for it at least.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again on a very well-deserved race victory. I look forward to see what you have in store for us at the Dutch Grand Prix next week.
Thank you very much, Dalton.
Darkness? I thought my name was Light Mode.
I mean, walrusness.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we are going to have ourselves one quick interview, one last interview, and that's going to be with Julian, P2 finisher on the podium. Julian, welcome to the commentary box. First of all, massive congratulations to you and the team. You and Aston Martin scoring a double podium at the end of that race. I mean, tell me, what's going through your head after that race?
Hoping for the most of get podium in the Netherlands and catch soybean.
I think you definitely have the pace, and you've got the teammate for it. And this race, you had the strategy. You went onto the hard compound. How was that tire? Because a lot of people think that the hard compound at Suzuka is a terrible selection, but the 90% of the grid went for it. So how was it for you?
For me, hard was one of them for my best decisions I've ever had. Of course, being the mediums, but I easily passed who didn't stop, and I was concentrated on my race, and after getting a penalty, try to push as much as I can.
And I mean, so much happened in that race. I can't actually remember the positions, the finishing positions, but you finished with that 3-second time penalty. You then finished with your teammates. I mean, that's, as you mentioned, you Aston Martin are going to be very strong. You are trying to chase down the bean and avoid Red Bull winning another championship. With Zandvoort now around the corner, you got hopefully it'll be a dry circuit. Tachus was saying hopefully for some rain. Soybean was saying rain would be nice. What are your thoughts about the track? Do you think rain would be something you'd be up for the challenge, or do you not want any rain at all at that circuit?
I don't want the rain, honestly. I'm very bad with this rain.
Oh no. Well, hopefully for your case it doesn't rain. Though the weather will not be announced till Monday or Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to it. I think Zandvoort is a tricky circuit. I think it is for league racing. It can go very wrong, but you can get some very good battles because people go to the inside line, people go to the outside line. No one line is perfect with that circuit, so I think it'll be quite interesting to see. But congratulations again, very well deserved double podium for you and for Aston Martin. I look forward to see what you guys have in store for us for Zandvoort next season. It being one of my favourite circuits, I'm hoping for some good battles, so no pressure. I hope to see Aston Martin, at least one of you on the podium. So I hope you put in that work and get yourself up onto the podium steps.
Yeah, thanks, man.
No worries. Hope you have a lovely day, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
And I'm going to wrap it up there. Just 3 interviews today. Unfortunately, Cos Sylvie isn't around for a chat. And that'll be it for Tier 1. Hopefully, next week I won't be coughing as much as I am, or not coughing at all for next week. But it has been a delight to do the stream for you guys again. It was thankfully from last week you had Flynn here to cover for me. And Flynn has been doing a lot of work, and he's been doing a lot of streams, so please do thank him a lot for what he's done. He does ACC streams, he does the F2 streams, he does F1 Tier 2 streams from time to time, so he does a lot of work each week, or each weekend, and honestly, I probably would struggle. I would struggle with the commentating without him, so a massive thanks to him. Thank you everyone for joining me, and I will see you next week for Zandvoort. Hopefully it rains. I mean, I hope it rains, but we'll have to see. Who knows?